or something, even like a tote, like a Sterilite tote. If you wanted to plant in that, you could. So we're going to show you how to prep that and then how to plant the tomato plant as well.
Hello, Community Culture Church. This is the Farmercist. Haven't seen you guys in a while. My lovely assistant gave me the drill. I'm using like a 1/2 inch bit right now, or actually 3/8 inch bit. That'll give enough aeration to the soil. Basically, you just don't want the roots to become waterlogged, and so this process helps. Back to these are mineral tubs that we use for our cattle. Pretty sure, like driving down Highway 9, there's 15 of them that you can see from the road, and if you just stop and ask your neighbor if you could use them, oftentimes the wind just blows them into the fence and they're just all over the place. Recycling centers could potentially have some too, but you don't have to have a massive amount of area to grow something. And this is kind of what this video is about, is to show you from step 1 to step whatever this is going to end up being, how to plant tomatoes, not potatoes, tomatoes.
That was last week.
That was last week, in a confined area.
There we go.
I find that there's really no like certain design. What I like to do is create a design that makes the tomatoes happy. So that's why I always go with the happy face aeration design.
Perfect for drainage. Okay,
right.
so something that we learned from a YouTube channel, and also if you ask a bunch of old men, then they're probably going to tell you something very similar. But if you take an egg and plant with your tomato plant, it is supposed to help with calcium, and what else does it help with?
What is it?
Calcium and...
Oh, ribosomes.
Calcium and ribosomes.
I just made that word up. It's not real.
Okay, well, you made that up.
It helps with some of the soil bacteria.
Soil bacteria and whatnot. So we're going to plant our tomato plant with an egg in it, and we're going to show you how to do that. But another thing is all these fuzzy little pieces on this tomato plant, those are future roots, like a root system possible. So we're going to be taking off these lower limbs right here, and even
and
these
you can do that with it. Let me show them what a little, this is called a sucker too, and it always grows out of the limb at a 45-degree angle as it grows bigger. Those will not fruit, so you always pull those suckers off that grow out at a 45 as the plant gets more mature.
Yeah, so we're gonna prune these and take them off before we plant, and you're actually gonna plant half of your tomato plant. So you can see that the base of the plant is all the way down here, but we're gonna plant it about this deep.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, if you've ever had your tomato plants like constantly falling over, getting really top heavy, this allows more of a root structure to help hold them up. So that's what we're gonna do now.
Mineral tub ready to plant. Basically what you'll do is you're going to take your tomato plant out. This one looks like Cheech has forgot to water for a couple days.
Just one day.
It's a little parched. This variety is a Bonnie Original. It's indeterminate. There's 2 different types, indeterminate and determinate type tomatoes. But basically when you go to plant a tomato, you're just going to dig a hole, and traditionally most people just sit it in there like this. Well, what that does is you only get 3 inches of exposure of roots. What we were told is that if you dig out basically a deeper hole and you lay the tomato, and this goes against everything, guys, that I've ever done. It's weird, I know, but it works. You lay it in there perpendicular to or actually parallel to the soil surface now, and then you cover it back up. Before we do that though, Chelsea talked about the calcium rich. This has been a wives' tale forever, and I think there's a lot of science behind it because it's calcium rich, and it's got a lot of just active nutrients in the yolk, and so you don't want to crush it. You just simply want to set it down in the hole, and I'm looking for something to break this egg, and you want to just open the egg up, and then essentially you set the tomato on top of the egg yolk and the crushed egg shell to give it kind of a jump start on production. And so we'll lay that in there. Now I'm going to bury the tomato plant. Yes, sideways, really weird. Voila, there you have a planted tomato. Don't worry, I know it looks really weird. It's planted at a really weird angle, and the sun though the plant has a natural tendency to follow the sun, and so in the course of a week, you'll notice this tomato has topped the planter and it straightened itself out because it naturally wants to grow to sunlight.
So when you're watering your tomato plants, you're going to want to go around the base of your tomato plant because tomato plants really don't like water on their leaves. It causes mildew and it makes the plants more susceptible to disease. And what was it called? What kind of rot?
What kind of what?
What kind of rot?
Dirty rot.
Like dirty rot?
Dirty rotten tomatoes. Haven't you seen that? I don't know.
It's so you can see the tomato.
Yeah, it's just water rot. The problem is too, a lot of people have a tendency to overwater tomatoes, like Cheech is doing right now. She's baptizing them with too many gallons of water. But honestly, like, people truly do have an over tendency, and some people let the tomato plants show them when they need to be watered by the leaf tips withering. I don't like that. I don't do that. I'm probably too generous with water. But obviously our tomato plants are doing well, so we're doing something right. But just be really aware of overwatering.
All right, this is a prime example of a limb on a tomato plant that needs to be pruned. As you can see, like, this bottom limb is just laying on the ground, and I always thought negatively against pruning because I just wasn't educated on how it worked. But basically, when you go to trim that, just trim it against the stalk and remove those leaves, because then there's less disease prone. Oh, here's a perfect example of this sucker. So you've got this 45 growing outside the main stalk, and this little dude right here is a sucker. You can pinch them off, but I just take my pruners. Yeah, it's pretty good size, and I don't want to harm the main stalk, and trim that off, and that way you ensure that it produces fruit. Here's another example of a limb that's laying on the ground that I want to go ahead and clip off and take that out.
It's important not to do a whole bunch of this at one time, because if you take off too much of the plant, you can shock it.
Yep.
So, you know, just pruning 1 or 2 stems every few days or so, and just keeping an eye on them is the ticket, I guess you could say. So. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe you learned something new from it. If you have any tips or tricks on planting your tomato plants, or if you've done it similarly or differently and you want to share your info, leave us a comment with this video, maybe some pictures as well. I love getting to see some of yours, your gardens. Amanda and Jessica, you're doing awesome. I can't wait to see the progress. And just keep those posted because it's really encouraging to us. And we like to see the progress. It's all fun to see all the growth. So it's exciting.
I actually just like the data and the analytics. So the more thumbs up, we don't get paid from YouTube, but there's a lot of people that do. So that's really, if you would like the thumbs up, I will donate our proceeds.
He doesn't even know that this is just on Facebook.
I don't freaking know. I have no idea.
He has no idea what he's talking about.
But I do know this though. Do you know this? Do you know? Okay, question, is a tomato a fruit or vegetable?
It is a fruit, and I do know that one, so I've stumped them there.
Good one. Most people don't know that. You know, beyond just a fruit in the garden, or if we're talking about tomatoes, I find that during this downtime, we could really reflect more on the fruit of the Spirit that lives in us, that the Holy Spirit produces in us. And as we're talking gardening, I don't think that we need to forget about those types of spiritual fruits.
Yeah, and how many of them apply to gardening?
It
takes a lot of love for your plants.
It takes a lot of patience.
Patience, yeah.
And it's a peaceful place.
It's very peaceful, yeah.
I think that we're doing the world some goodness by
tasting some goodness.
Yeah, tasting some goodness Out of
You
gentleness.
have to be gentle with some of your plants.
You do, because you'll break your stalks
Yeah,
and your
you'll
carrots.
just ruin all the growth.
Faithfulness, I'm not sure how that pertains.
Well, you have to have faith that if you plant a seed, it's going to grow.
Or I have to have faith in my cucumbers and they're going to die for the second
Yeah.
round, so that's
You know we've
faithfulness.
struggled with those.
Joy, this thing brings me a lot of joy in the morning because I
Ton of
come out
joy.
here and I kung fu the ants with boiling water and I judo chop the squash bugs.
Yeah.
Kindness, I think that for whatever it is, when you get around green stuff and you sit in an environment that's outside or you're with your plants on your porch, it just really pulls out kindness in you.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird deal.
Well, kindness to the earth, if you want to go that
Yeah,
route.
yeah, and kindness to God's creatures
Yes.
that He's given us. And
How
enabled
kind
us
of God to give us a plant that we can plant that
And
gives
nourish
us
our body.
food.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that we can do on our own.
What
Not
about
everything comes in a box at Walmart.
what about self-control too?
Yeah.
Is there an aspect of self-control within the garden?
Self-control, if you try to pick your pepper too soon when it's tiny, you're not going to get as much of enjoyment out of it.
Ooh, good call.
Or even like our squash and our zucchini are starting to grow and they're all kind of pretty small right now. If I could go pick those and
You can
eat
eat it
them.
right now, but you can have enough self-control to wait.
Self-control, wait a few more days and then you have a more mature.
Or how about this? If you have enough self-control to eat more of these green things out of here rather than little Debbie snacks.
Or Oreos.
Ooh, that's my
He ate the last package and didn't tell me.
5 packages.
Is
Well,
there,
that's-
did we get them all? Did we get them
Yeah,
all?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's just really a neat analogy to think about how God not only gives us the ability to produce fruit, but we're kind of plants. We're walking around human plants in ourselves that we're producing
Yeah.
all of these 9 factors if we allow the Holy Spirit to show itself through us to give to other people.
Exactly. We can instill that in others, help nurture and take care of others and ourselves, and lean on God for what we need, our soil, our water, our sunlight. He's everything.
Absolutely. Until next time, this is the Farmercist signing off.
With Cheech.
We need to clarify when we call you Cheech, because this is a church video.
My
and
brother could not say Chelsea, so he called me Cheech.
She doesn't
and then
smoke a
she
lot of
evolved
weed.
Kyle.
anymore.
Okay, I'm editing that out. It's just a
like-
nickname. Doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Cheech,
Um,
Chelsea, whatever you want to call me.
Look, you guys' support and your prayers. We've really enjoyed doing this garden series.
Mhm.
If we don't know what we're talking about, we just make it up. I'm sure you figured that out already. But we love you guys. Stay strong and keep us in your prayers, and we'll do the same. Thanks.
Bye.
I think that's good, but we believe in growing our greens so much that we've converted our dogs from herbivores or omnivores to nothing but herbivores. The weenie dog now eats grass. How crazy is that?